We are rapidly approaching the end of October. We're crushing it. Thank you for watching. See you next week would be the easy way to do this. But I like to talk too much, so we're actually going to still run through our usual gamut of things. But you know where we have to start. And this week I will just phrase the question, is anything not working? Because clearly pretty much everything is.
I only have one thing that is not working, and that would be Delta.
Really?
Yeah. So Delta is the only thing that I haven't read.
Okay.
And it's at -6. It's negative, yeah.
And that's for the month.
Yeah, for the month. So
that honestly surprises me.
I'm not really sure. Well, it had a huge dip. Well, okay, relatively huge. I don't know. But I'm not.
Maybe they missed earnings or something. I haven't been nearly as good at keeping up with that stuff as I should be for somebody who facilitates some type of YouTube show like this. But
yeah, I'm not super big on.
Clearly, something has gone wrong.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure on that. And then the other thing everything is green, but like Callaway is like 0.04, so it's like barely even green.
Hanging on by a thread, yeah.
Yeah, but
hey, I hear some of their new fall release cycle equipment is absolutely amazing. So,
yeah, let's hope so.
Maybe.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure. Everything else though is doing more than 2%, like positive. So
yeah, I mean you're pushing double digits, so one would assume. Very nice, very nice. Kyle, is there anything that's not working?
Boeing, I think, is not working.
Boeing is not working. All right.
It's down 5% on the month. I guess they haven't been able to sell their 787s, and they're about to report quarter 3 earnings, so I guess people are not happy with that.
Yeah.
Everything else is doing really well.
Excellent.
Microsoft's way up. TSMC.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate Tesla's month?
Yeah, Tesla's up like 30% on the month or something like that. It's $1,000 now. It's a big number.
Correct, $1,000 a share.
Yeah. Over the course of this, what's been the low over the course of this competition?
Let's look and find out. I know the market is closed. Just
over the year. Chart. You could have gotten it at like $580. $580 is the low.
So almost a 2-for-1.
Yes.
Ouch. Ouch.
This time a year ago it was $387.
Dang.
You got a 3-for-1 if you had just gone back even further.
Jeez. Nah, you live and you learn.
Yep.
You also can't chase stuff like that because you do it once and you make a bunch of money, and then you think you can do it every time, and that's how you lose a bunch of money. So,
this is very true.
Got to be careful. Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything's working for me. Ericsson is down 1%. My investment in Chipotle Mexican Grill not looking super great. Down 5 3/4.
Well, so you were investing in them because you were confident that they would be resistant to any.
Yeah, it's more of a like November, December, January type of a play. So I don't really care.
There's been no additional regulations or stipulations. So
yeah, I mean, I think their play for takeout kitchens is genius. I think they're going to run a bunch of people into the ground because they've figured something out that it's a nice enough product that people are willing to pay for it, but the way you put it together and distribute it and deliver the experience to the customer is not that dissimilar from a drive-through where you would get a significantly inferior product. And I think that combination of things for people is quite compelling. But again, I'm just an armchair quarterback, so just my working hypothesis at this point. But speaking of things that are up, we spent a lot of time on the show ruthlessly mocking WeWork as something that is doomed to inevitably fail. And while I still believe it has a lot of problems and it will SoftBank will never make a cent off of their investment in WeWork. I think we can all agree on that. It did open last Thursday and closed up 13.5% in its first day. Again, this is at a much more modest, like $9 billion valuation instead of the $47 billion valuation from 2019. But have either of you changed your tune? You know, having seen it on the market for a couple days now, having seen reports of office occupancy numbers for that kind of stuff are trending in the right direction, is this something you would think about buying?
I mean, I guess the idea of it is like, I don't know. It makes sense, I guess, because like my sister's company, they got rid of their office, and they actually just recently had to rent a like co-working space or whatever.
Yeah. So updated
like,
most recent price. Sorry, really quick. It peaked as high as $14, and it's now down at $12.35.
Okay.
And it IPO'd at about 11. Or SPAC'd at 11, or whatever the proper term is. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess like I would say probably for a smaller like agency type company, I could see that being like useful.
Yeah.
If you needed to, meet with clients or like organize some type of like company gathering or something. But I mean, I think they have its place, but I guess specifically, I don't know. I can't say that it really makes that much sense for me.
Not necessarily convinced about the upside of it anyway.
Right.
I gotcha. Kyle, would you buy it at $13 a share?
I guess maybe. I mean, like, long term is just renting office space. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the hard part.
If you're gonna invest in it, I guess like as people are having their employees come back to work right now, might be a good time because like that will, I guess, have an influx of cash at the moment. But long term, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, like, yeah, I think you can make money off of it. I just not really. I just don't see enough potential there for really need to be too worried about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing for me. Like, it's not that it can't be worth more than $13. It's a glorified like landlord-tenant relationship type of a thing, and that stuff has been around as like. I struggle with the novelty of it really propelling it to the heights that some people think it's capable of achieving.
Right.
Like, and this is somebody, like, I work remote full time. We have a team of 9 people. We are, in theory, the ideal candidate for something exactly like this. The problem is that we work across 3 different states, so we're never in the same place. If we were all in the same place, I could see us doing something like that if we had a meeting, if we had a client pitch, like if we had stuff like that, I could see the value in that. But for me, it's a very fine line between needing some type of co-working space enough to turn it into a profitable investment versus we're just going to work remote permanently from your house, and then if we need a WeWork room once a month for a thing, like, the upside of that type of a scenario is not appealing to me. Yeah. And I think that more people are embracing a more full remote setup, which for people like WeWork creates some opportunities, but it also creates some liabilities. Because you're always going to have some people who just can't work from your house, right? If your house isn't big enough, if you have kids at home who make way too much noise, if you can't focus, like whatever the case is, right? There's a lot of very good reasons to still do that. I don't see those people outweighing the number of people who are just content to work in their pajamas and do what they do. So that's my take. I would agree, though. I mean, I think at $13, it would be hard not to make some money off of it, but if you're looking for upside, I would have some questions.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, long term, just the upside isn't there. Like theoretically, my company is fully remote. Also has people across multiple states. Like we could be theoretically a WeWork target, but we are having an in-company event. I think eventually next year, but it's gonna be like held at the hotel that they're booking everyone at.
Yeah.
For sure. Like we're not using. I think we're just it's probably included in our like in the hotel price that they negotiated to use the conference room or whatever. So that like it kind of cuts WeWork out as the middleman. So it's kind of awkward. Like I don't.
It does.
I see there's too many other alternative avenues to WeWork at this point.
Yeah.
And like most of them existed prior to WeWork. It's not like there are like new competitors that are being introduced that have to get through building infrastructure or catching up to WeWork. It's like rental property management companies have been a thing for a while and are doing very well for themselves right now.
Yep.
Those are definitely worth more than $13.
Like, I mean, I guess are they trying to market it more as like a higher end type thing, or just to the common user? Because I feel like if you're going high end, then that limits like pretty much all of your like clients, I guess.
I mean, they're always going to tout the higher level clients they have, right? If you have a Lululemon office of 5 people in Nova Scotia somewhere, maybe you use a WeWork instead of buying a building or doing some type of long-term lease. But like, I don't know.
Because I feel like I don't think I could ever see it being a cheap enough option that companies would say, hey, I'm going to use WeWork rather than like lease from like an independent owner or something like that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, to your point about like the more everyday one-off type of people, do you know how hectic my house would have to be in order for me to pay the monthly price of what it would take to get a desk at a WeWork and then commute there?
Yeah, that'd be something.
Hell no. I would have to live in the world's noisiest house with like 20 other people in order for that to happen.
Yeah, it would have to be more like a lack of access to it, like stable internet.
I mean, it would have to be something like that, right?
Like like it would. It's almost like like I don't. Why would I not just go to a Starbucks even?
To be fair, it is almost impossible to take a conference call from a Starbucks. I have tried.
Okay, or like a public library, your car. I mean, I've taken conference calls with people and they're in their closets because of kids. So I mean, like a car,
True.
That's easy.
True. Conference calls in your car aren't that bad. I mean, obviously, it's preferable if you're not moving because then you can actually like take notes instead of having to rely on spotty Bluetooth while you drive around in circles or whatever.
Yeah, just closing the door to them, giving you that extra barrier sound. Yeah, I'm here. Like, yeah, it would only make sense if there was a group of you, like, who required the office. And again, who wants to really drive to work anymore?
Yeah, I mean, and that to me, I think is part of this that I think a lot of people are sleeping on is that people are now realizing how wonderful it is to not have a commute.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care how close you are to a WeWork. Any commute feels like a lot more than zero commute. I roll out of bed, I walk through my kitchen, I take 12 stairs, and I'm at work. It took like 30 seconds. You cannot beat that.
Yeah.
You just can't. And for some people, that's all that matters. If it means they don't spend 2 hours a day in their car, sold. No questions asked. There you go. But I feel like a lot of those are more urban market type of people who walk or use a bike or whatever. I feel like it's probably not necessarily geared as much towards somebody like me who would be driving into a city.
Yeah, I feel like none of us would be particularly the target audience for WeWork.
Yeah, be more like if I had an apartment downtown.
Yeah, like I guess maybe if you didn't have the space for like a personal office, it might be more appealing. But like with everyone using laptops now, you could just plop down on your couch or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Make some money maybe, but yeah, I'm not not crazy about the upside.
Yeah.
Is WeWork in like rural areas or like
No.
like less urban areas?
No.
Like I mean like because if you think about like the locations that WeWork locations are likely to be, those places likely have like libraries and community centers and areas that are designed to give people public spaces to work on stuff in.
True.
So it's kind of like I said, it just seems like too many alternatives that you could theoretically use. Like, it just seems hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've made it really shiny and sexy and kind of fun to think about, but
like if
practically,
WeWork had the only modern office setting in a small city of like 10,000 people in Oklahoma, like that would probably do well.
Probably.
Right? Like if it had the only modern fancy office setting, people would take conferences there.
Yeah.
Entertain clients, or you just rent it just for the equipment for one day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have like a mass copy operation that we got to do. Like, can we just rent your equipment? Like, yeah, like why not?
I guess I could see it as a, because there's all those people who like love to network. I'm not one of them, but like, I mean, I guess you could use it as kind of a social thing, but at the same time,
I have attended a large number of networking things that have been held in co-working spaces.
Right. So, like, that could be a thing, but at the same time, you're paying money to not get work done, and maybe socializing with those people.
Well, and those are usually free. Like if you just randomly network with people during the day, obviously you're paying to be there.
Yeah.
But like anything that they're doing in the building after hours, like you could walk in off the street and say, "I'm here for this event," and boom, here's some free sandwiches and a little, past drink of some kind. Like, I don't know. I think it's part of the brand image of them trying to make it seem like this really great thing, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the target customer, but I wouldn't be overly excited personally. But enough about me and my personal confusions with the WeWork business model. I want to go back to Elon Musk because this man continues to provide some very, very delicious headlines for us to ruthlessly mock. First, SpaceX canceled a previously scheduled private space flight because they didn't have any customers.
Okay.
So, not great. News comes out today that billionaire Elon Musk does not like the Democratic plan for taxing billionaires. No shit, Sherlock. On top of that, the Tesla self-driving beta has been rolled back to a previous version after, quote, new bugs were detected. So, obviously, bugs in software, the two of you are very familiar with that. That's just part of doing business. Like that's not anybody's fault. That just happens.
Well, it's also the beta, so
yeah, it's a beta. You would fully expect that to happen. However,
Tesla and SpaceX
the other two,
Elon Musk ripped the Democratic
the political one less relevant, of course, for what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
as lawmakers considered a tax as a way to fund the party's multi-trillion-dollar
billionaire doesn't like a billionaire.
Musk, as of Monday, had the highest net worth on Forbes' list of billionaires.
We could argue
replied to a tweet featuring a photo of an email sent to a constituents consent to their lawmakers to oppose the tax.
It's pretty clear.
Musk appeared to agree with the content.
Pretty understandable.
Exactly. Eventually, they run out of other
It seems
money,
like
and then they come for you.
Every week you have enough headlines with him involved that you could just talk about that the whole time.
New concepts.
True.
But for the purposes of this, let's go back and we'll focus on the private spaceflight thing.
Responsiveness of
Well,
the
so
system. We are no longer
is it
talking
better to
about
have it canceled because you have no
just
customers,
voice-based
or have it
communication
canceled
applications
because
with
something went
influence.
wrong?
But it goes
It's
beyond
far
that.
better to
It's
have it
a global
canceled because of
phenomenon.
no customers. But I think that this also underscores, and we talked about it with Virgin Galactic, we'll talk about it again. This is part of why I don't like this as an investment proposition.
New infrastructure for 5G.
If your product is so expensive that you can't even find 5 people who want to pay you for it,
so
that's probably not a great business in terms of scalability. I have no doubt your margins are probably obscene, and I have no doubt that for the people involved at the ownership level of this private venture, that they could make a decent amount of money. But if you're trying to sell this to the public as an investment opportunity to put into your portfolio,
5G in our
you
industry
have to
is
have
expected
so
to be as
much
impactful as railroads,
broad-scale
airports,
use of
highways
this
were
thing.
in past generations.
Otherwise,
so you
if this was
do
publicly
need
traded, how much do you
infrastructure
think
in
that
order
stock
to
drops on
capture
Monday
the
when they
real
say, hey, yeah, we
cutting-edge
had to cancel this
technologies
because
that
we
will
didn't
be
have any
available with
customers?
5G.
That would be like Amazon saying we ran out of products and the warehouse is closed. Start shopping again tomorrow.
America has
Yeah.
faced
Like
hard
you don't
choices,
do.
but we chose the right path, solving complex problems for all of us. But now, when it comes to America's energy,
I guess I'm not
Washington wants to
surprised.
chart
I
an
mean, they're
extreme
probably
course, canceling pipelines,
this is
imposing
SpaceX,
new
so it's not
taxes,
like
mandates, and halting natural gas and oil production. A risky path that could make energy more expensive and less reliable. Washington's plan
Yes, but I
jeopardizes
mean,
our
if you're
security.
Blue
Our
Origin, you
elections
can
clear.
distract everybody by putting
Solutions
William
are made
Shatner
in America.
up into orbit and
But
say
I
that
did
you
think it
actually
was
sent Captain
notable
Kirk to
that
space.
Biden
and
was
people
quick to
was-
praise the governor's,
That's true.
alleged
I mean, I guess,
successes, and
I don't know,
kind of
like,
glossed
yeah,
over,
like, I don't
the
think there's
11
enough
women
of a
who
product
accused
there.
him.
Like I
That to
said,
me signals that the
if I was
Democrat
gonna pay
Party
a bunch
might
of money
actually
to
be
go to
preserving him for a future. And I wanted
Yeah.
to mention, Caitlin
Well,
Cox
and I
from
think the
CNN
other
said,
thing
how can you
here
say he
is
was a
that
success when he had
I
these
think we
11
talked about this
accusers?
too,
And
right?
lefty Twitter was coming at her left and right.
Reason
Do
that
you
some
think,
of this
based
has
on your
appeal
coverage of the governor and the
in the
state
long
politics,
term
do you
is
think
through
he's
like
being
government
groomed for a
contracts
future
with
down the
NASA
road?
or government contracts with like foreign
It's hard
countries
to
who
see
need
because the actual
some type of
Democrats in
commercial
New
space
York who
capability.
work in
Yeah,
politics or
commercial
in
That's
space.
where
elected
there's a
office
bunch
are
of
very
money in
sick
this.
and
It's not
tired of
just a
Andrew
bunch of rich
Cuomo.
people
Andrew
going up
Cuomo
to
did
outer
not
space for
have
10
friends
minutes. Like,
in
that's
government.
such a
That's
small
why he had
percentage
to
of the
resign.
overall
If he
pie.
was a Bill Clinton-like
I get
figure
that you
who
have
was
to do it as like
beloved
a
or
proof
had
of
real
concept to a
deep
certain degree, but
alliances
like,
with a
why
lot
are
of
we even
Democrats,
talking about
it's possible he survives
private
the
space
scandal.
flights
It
for
was
rich
quite
people? Like,
egregious,
we should be
but
talking
you could
about
see a path forward for
government
him.
contracts.
But the reason he had to go so quickly was so many people
That's
from
me.
labor unions,
SpaceX
from
does
elected
stuff.
officials, legislative leaders,
Like,
special
they
interest
use
groups,
rockets.
they all collectively decided they had enough of him. So it's hard to imagine the powers that
like they do a lot of things.
come
Like,
together and say, we want
we can
more
all-
of Andrew
we can
Cuomo,
all, like, we
when
can
they can really get what they need out of someone else. Kathy Hochul is a moderate Democrat. She's a conventional Democrat. She is someone who
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, they are playing the right. I mean, I'm sure all of them are playing that game, but you're right. The public would have a very bad reaction to you saying, "I have no customers." I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything besides a negative reaction to that statement to have? Quite honestly, so I don't care what stage of your. I mean, even if you expect no customers, it's still not great news to find out you don't have any, like you expected. Like, it's okay. Have they announced any like plans to like? Are they gonna like change the price because of that, or are they just like, no,
They
we're
said
just
they
gonna...
were. I believe the official quote was something.
Like, did
Basically,
anyone
they
sign up
said
at
they
all?
couldn't bring together the timing, the opportunity, and the customers, but they were looking forward to trying again with a better date or something like that.
I mean, that's true too. I guess if only, maybe you have 5 people, but those 5 people, they have billionaire schedules, I guess. So
Yep.
Whatever.
Because we know what the price is for Virgin, right? Virgin Galactic.
Yeah, I don't know what the SpaceX price is. I don't think they've disclosed it because they're private. They don't have to.
They need to sell limited edition Teslas with them. That's the move.
I would not be surprised if they were working on it.
Is it an Escalade? I'd be more likely to
Maybe
get
a Land Rover or something
Oh,
like that.
Land Rover, yeah.
They're probably waiting though till they have the new version of the Roadster, and then they'll put that stupid rocket booster thing on the back, and you'll go like 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds, and like leave your face at the starting line.
I can't wait until they release a model that's named after like something in space. Somewhere.
I thought he put out a video of what was it?
The Tesla Rover.
Well, no, it's a Roadster, but it had some type of ridiculous pack on the back of it or something.
The price for SpaceX must be. I'm assuming it's going to be like in like several times the price of Virgin though. Because like Virgin, because also Virgin can take what, like 11 people or something like that, right? Like they can take like a lot more people because it's more of a plane-esque thing than like an actual
Well,
rocket ship.
it's more like a passenger thing, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the Dragon capsule is like capable of 5 maximum, and
And you need a pilot and stuff.
yeah, I wonder also if SpaceX's like flight program is like, do you get to orbit the Earth? Because I'm pretty sure Virgin just goes up and down.
Yeah, I
If-
mean, I think they're all relatively similar in terms of like the total duration of the flight, right? It's somewhere around 10 to 12 minutes, I think, for most of them.
Okay.
God, 10, 12 minutes. It's like a SpongeBob episode.
Nice. One skit.
That's
Yeah,
the
like-
comparison they're looking for.
Yeah, man. It's like, okay, like one episode of a weekday morning cartoon. Yeah, you get 2 episodes for 30 minutes plus commercials. So.
What if also like training procedure is because I'm imagining SpaceX has a more rigorous training procedure, and then also the fact that like there's probably a lot of things that are adding up on SpaceX that makes it like time per value not as good. Or like yeah, because like I mean you probably have to do a lot more training, and you probably have to spend a lot more money because there are less number of seats on the vehicle. So there's probably just a lot that's like kind of adding up against it, and maybe that's why.
Okay, sorry, real quick. We were joking about rocket thrusters, but apparently that's a thing. They don't know how they're going to do it or if it's even possible. He has previously publicly stated that there will be a SpaceX package on the new Roadster with 10 small rocket thrusters that use like cold gas, like rocket ship cold gas, that could take the car from 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds flat.
So wait, how do you? This cold gas, is it refillable? Like, do I pull up to my local shop? I'm like, so I got some
Specifics
rocket
do
fuel.
not exist, but if you want to read on how it's possible, I'm sure there's the Popular Mechanics or something on whether or not this is even a thing.
You guys got liquid oxygen that I can inject into my engine.
Well, that's the thing, like, so many volatile compounds at play here, like.
Oh man.
I guess you could do like a liquid. I don't even know, like liquid oxygen, which actually is a very flammable.
Yeah,
You
that's what I'm
wouldn't want to do
saying,
anything
like,
flammable.
like, where would you refill this from? Like, okay, say it works, you use it. Like, okay, I went 0 to 60 in
Well,
a
they're
second,
also
my
saying it
nuts
could help you
went
with
off.
cornering. So they're
What?
well. So hold on. That
I'm
Oh,
imagining, like, you know, in Mario Kart,
This is
you
how-
have, like the drift with the little boost. You get the boost as you drift.
Nice.
You know?
So this is a hypothetical write-up from an engineer on how it could possibly work. This is obviously
Okay.
nowhere near official. They say if you
Was he-
put 3 in the back, that could provide you with 1,200 pounds of thrust, which is, I don't know much about cars, but that's a lot. And then you could put 2 on each side in the front to help you get around corners and stuff.
see,
I don't know if all those thrusters use cold gas or if some of them are electric though. Like,
I'm assuming it's probably some sort of like or like a compressed air tank or something.
yeah, I mean, to me, it kind of sounds like NOS.
Because
But
like
I don't know.
I just think it's funny.
like a compressed air thruster in the back. But the thing is with the ones in the front, that wouldn't really help necessarily.
Yeah, so they'd be on the sides.
Yeah,
They'd have to be like up by the front
Oh,
wheel
so
somewhere, wouldn't they?
they're just like pointing out to the side, so they just like violently jerk your shit or your. It's like how people describe like spaceships in like sci-fi, where they have like thrusters on the side of the ship to perform like
Yeah.
like RTS.
emergency maneuvers. Yeah, like it's like okay,
Do I have to sign a medical waiver before I buy one of these? I think that's the real question.
I'll just cause an explosion on one side of my car and turn at the same time. Okay.
I can't see. a little bit of compressed air being strong enough to help with the car, because it's also the limit of the tires. Like you'd have to put like really crazy tires on it.
Yeah.
But that's even.
Well, all that stuff adds weight too. So
Yeah. So it seems like it would just be more reasonable to build a lighter car with the same sticky tires, and you'd be fine.
Yeah, it'd be like we use spaceship alloys
Yeah.
in our, and that's the SpaceX type. It's made from the same metal, same special metal.
yeah,
Special metal and speed holes. That's how you make cars fast.
speed holes.
Yeah.
Super technical term.
Hey, the wind goes through instead of against.
Sacrifice safety for like lightness, and you're golden.
I should make a mesh car.
It'll work.
Oh dear. Needless to say, if that was possible, probably a lot of interest in what would be the world's fastest production car. Most likely very long way off. I have no doubt you can get your hands on a retail version here in a couple years, but it's not going to have that on it. Not going to have that. I feel like it's one of those things where I don't remember. There's probably a handful of them, but usually if you spend more than like X amount of dollars on a car, the manufacturer like flies you out to the track and like will give you orientation with like a trained driver and stuff, right? Because you spent an ass load of money on a car that's worth more than like a lot of people's houses put together.
Yeah, and they're like, we know that you've never driven a car.
Yeah, you've never done this. Do they have to do something like that with this car? Because you can only imagine the number of telephone poles this thing is going to get wrapped around by people who are not used to going 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
Yeah, the thing about that is, like, when the companies do that, it's because you bought a car that costs, like, maybe hundreds of thousands to millions
$1 million, yeah.
So, like, you know, like, the price of flying you to a test track to, like, test out the car with a team of experts and instructors there to not only, like, teach you, but also, like, make sure the car is good, like, and show you, like,
yeah.
oh, this is what we do. These are all the ways you can, like, you know, tune it and stuff. And you're gonna need to have your own mechanic guy, like, be like learning about it too, I guess, or whatever. So
this is like, how you change the oil. It takes 3 days and costs $60,000. Like,
yeah, so
it's
like,
one of those things.
Maybe it will, maybe they would, but then at that point you would have to be paying a lot more for that car than the regular.
Well, yeah, and I thought I saw somewhere like it's going to be expensive. Make no mistake about it, but it was not as expensive as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, if it's under like $300,000, I would say that I doubt that they were going to do all that.
No, hell no.
Yeah,
they don't even like having in-person dealerships. They're definitely not going to do that. Man is just a headline-making machine.
He is.
It's a good-looking car, though. Renderings look nice.
They all look nice. I think they all look nice with this.
I wish the Model S had a little bit more to it, but that's just that's a personal design preference. Anyway, enough about that. We've got a handful of other things to cover, so I'm going to move on. All of us being in the greater Seattle metropolitan area somewhere are very familiar with problems related to affordable housing, houses being listed on the market for 10 seconds and then being sold for $100,000 over asking. Like, all of that shit is just like, yes, that's just what happens. But I saw an interesting article the other day. So Zillow apparently had this program where they would buy houses and then flip them themselves and sell them on Zillow. Apparently, a confluence of things related to labor and supply chain issues and all that other stuff. They have paused the program where they buy and flip houses on their own platform with their own money because they have a backlog of inventory that they have to sell first. So, is this the first domino in a larger conversation about the housing market and any and all stocks affiliated, or is this just a Zillow thing where, hey, maybe we temper our expectations and see how they handle this, but the implications for a Redfin or a whomever else, are there any?
I don't know, I guess it seems like a weird process. Like, I mean, it makes sense to me that they have immediate access to like basically any house. Like,
Yeah,
they
I mean,
go
if
to
you're
the
selling
website.
other people's houses, it's not a stretch for them to buy them and flip them themselves. That part
Right.
makes sense. I guess it's the struggle to keep up with their ability to actually do it. That to me is
Yeah.
interesting.
Especially because I mean, I guess it's hard to say because like I don't know. I mean, there's obviously a handful of things that come up in the like process of flipping a house.
Yep.
I wonder if them being a larger company inhibits them from doing it like I wonder if it's an efficiency thing on their end or if they're literally just not able to sell the homes.
I'm assuming it has to be more of a supply chain thing than a selling of
Right.
the homes thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of it was things starting to slow down ever so
Right.
slightly, just because you feel like at some point it has to. It can't possibly go as quickly as it's going forever. This just
Right.
I don't see a way that that's possible, but again, I'm not an expert. I'm just here.
Mhm.
The thing that I thought was interesting, though, and where they might be onto something long term, their program says that if you purchase a house through the Zillow iBuyer program, closings can take anywhere from 7 to 90 days after the contract is signed. So you don't have to find an agent. You don't have to prep your house for market. And I don't know how many of these people would be eligible to close on a house in 7 days. But the average close when we bought our house was 28 to 31 days, which is fairly average for most people.
Yeah.
So if you could find a way to cut 75% of that out of the equation, I could certainly see people being fairly excited about that.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, there are potentially some larger implications for the real estate market as a whole if that becomes a widespread thing. But the fee to the seller of the house is an average of 5%, which to me also seems a little bit higher than what you're getting with a traditional, like, realtor type of a thing.
Right.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things here. But yeah, more just me being curious, I guess. Would either of you buy a house if money were not an object? Would you buy an average house if Zillow had bought it themselves, flipped it themselves, and put it on Zillow? Do you trust them, I guess? Is there consumer confidence that they would do a good job?
It's hard to say because I feel like I'm really hesitant in general with just like with flipped homes because I already know like you try to make
We've
the
seen
most
the shows
money.
on TV. We understand that corners are cut, right? That's
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I guess
I mean,
I'm already hesitant in that aspect, and I
Yeah.
feel like, but I'm sure like a private flip, like someone who's privately flipping is gonna cut as many costs as possible. But like maybe there's some things that like, hey, I don't have the supply to get the price as low as possible. So I don't know. I feel like I guess I'm not entirely sure because a company as large as Zillow would have the capabilities to maybe have higher quality products at a like a lower bulk like price. So maybe you do get a higher quality bill off of it. But at the same time, they're such a big company that I'm sure they're going to try to get the cheapest product at the extreme lowest rate. And so the same corners are cut regardless, and they just make way more money.
So it's effectively you're weighing the potential corner cutting of a flipped house with the certainty of, hey, as long as you're approved, like within 7 to 90 days, like this is your house, no hoops, no nothing, like that's it.
Yeah, I guess.
So you just have to, like, and I'm not expecting an answer per se, but like, it sounds like those are the two things that the customer is going to have to determine whether or not that is a fit for them.
Yeah, I think so.
Kyle, you're making a funny face.
I think Kyle's right. There's like an inherent risk to buying a flipped house, and I think he makes fair points that, like, a big company, you could argue that could lead to a better product, or you could argue that leads to a company that just knows how to save money better, so it looks to save money more. Like, I don't disagree that there's pros and cons. The thing to me would be like, what is their policy for if I find something wrong? Like, let's just say something went wrong in the house. Like, take the guessing out of it. It went wrong, regardless of whether or not on the average it happens or not. What is their what does their program say is my recourse? Do I have recourse?
Is there a home warranty of any kind?
Yeah, like, I think it would be more like that. Like, versus my options were, if I had just bought the house from someone, like a private individual, how screwed would I be versus like now? Like, like, I would have hired my own inspector. Am I relying on their inspector to tell me that the home is cool? Like,
Probably.
Buy the house or whatever.
You can always hire an extra one though. They won't.
So I can always hire. Well, so is that what their agreement says? Like, if you don't hire an extra one, like, you can't sue us if our guy didn't find the thing. Like, even if it should have been blatantly obvious that they should have found it. Like, those are questions. Those are questions I have. Like, to your point, yeah, it'd be nice if I bought a house and in a week I lived in the house.
Yep.
Like, that doesn't happen, for my understanding of how housing works, but
not outside of a program like this, apparently.
Yeah, so I see the appeal, but yeah, to me it just depends on, like, I don't know if it's any better or any worse than buying a flipped house, but there is a solid benefit, so like that seems worth it to me. But because there's a solid benefit, I assume there is some sort of catch. So that's what I want. What is the catch?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you still have to go through all of the bidding wars that it takes to even get that far. So just because it's listed for one thing doesn't mean it's not going to sell for $120,000 above asking.
True.
So nobody's going to be able to do anything about that, and even if they could, they wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
So interesting, though. I'm very interested to see if this creates some type of more long-term upheaval in the real estate and real estate investing space. So something to keep an eye on. Not necessarily something for immediate action, but something interesting nonetheless. Our last story of the evening. I apologize if this is going to get a little miserable for some people, but we couldn't not go there. By now, I don't know if you've seen that former president and two-time impeached Donald Trump has created a media company.
Really?
And said media company has already agreed to go public via SPAC. And this media company has gone up 1,657% since the deal was announced.
Wow.
Now, the reason why this could be a 24-hour episode. There's a lot to unpack. I'll try to cut to the highlights here. The concern for me is that there's not a business plan. There is not an investor presentation. There are no estimates as far as how they would make any money. There are no estimates about how much it would cost to do anything. So this, to me, seems like a complete and total landmine. Like, any investor who knows shit about investing should have nothing to do with this. Like, fan of the president or not, if you have a brain, there is 0% chance that you could convince me, for a number of other reasons we obviously won't get into, that this is a good idea. There's not even a product, and it has already gone up over 1,000%.
Wait, so when you say media company, are you talking like...
They want to create a social network, and they want to do, like...
I would argue...
I thought I saw something about, like, private news publishing and stuff. Like, they want to get into, like, the cable media space or something. I don't know.
I would argue there is some value to being endorsed by Donald Trump.
But it's his company. Like, he's not endorsing anything. It's
just
his because he's been permanently banned from Twitter.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's endorsing it in the fact that he's going to say use it because it's mine. And people,
yes.
Some people will inevitably use it. That's because he says there is some value to that.
Uh-huh.
Now, like long term, is there a product worth this making money like that? No. I am sure some people have made a lot of money off this already, though, so maybe that's not important.
Well, and to me, honestly, I think the more and more I read about some of these SPAC deals, I'm becoming fairly convinced that the money is not necessarily made in the long-term deal. The money is made after you announce that the SPAC is happening and everybody gets way too excited. That's the point when you sell. That is the point where you wash your hands, you say, thank you very much, I'm done.
To your point, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
the price has already gone up 1,000%. Some people made money already, and maybe that's all that's important.
Well, no, and that's what I'm convinced of. Like, the people who are in on this may or may not care about the rest of it. Maybe they've already made their money. I don't know. You would assume if you're the one funding the SPAC that you're going to have long-term ownership, and so they probably aren't going anywhere. But I would not be shocked at all if some people were like, hey, we know what this is going to do because we've seen, maybe they've seen other things like this. Just let it spike and walk away. It's like so many other of his businesses have gone bankrupt. Like, they've not made any money. How on earth do you think that somebody who can't even spell with a 240 character limit is going to run a media company? Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I work in digital marketing. I hate Mark Zuckerberg way more than the average person because I don't think he's particularly good at it either. So I'm not saying that it's not possible to do this and still be objectively bad at your job. But, like, damn, really? This, to me, is like GameStop times 1,000. The problem is that this is actually run by the rich people, and GameStop was average people like us trying to make a point. It's like there is no rational thought that you could possibly have. There is no argument to justify the numbers that are associated with this thing. I mean, am I wrong?
I mean, what is it value? I mean, it's gone up 1,000. What is it actually?
So it closed Friday at $131.90. It started Thursday, so the day before, at $9.96.
So do you think it's worth 10 times the amount of WeWork?
Hell no, not a chance.
Yeah, I mean, like,
the other
like
problem.
I said, I don't like, if you want to just say like I'm investing because I think Donald Trump is worth like just him being attached to a product is worth enough things as an influencer. Like, sure, you can tell me that starting at $9, his endorsement may be worth more than $9. I will totally give you that. Not even fight you on it. Same question though. Is it worth $130?
Well, and again, so that's going to be subjective, right? Some people it is, to some people it isn't. There are two other things, though, that I think get glossed over when you read the headline that Donald Trump has done this whole SPAC thing. The first is that if you bought shares in the SPAC before they announced the merger with Donald Trump, you had no idea where your money was going. You sure as hell do now, but you didn't last week. Well, and so the other problem with this is, like, if you're going to invest in a SPAC, know who is in charge of signing the papers, right? Know what they're interested in, because the irony of this scenario, right, is probably that there are some very democratic people who now own shares in a company that's headlined by Donald Trump because they bought a SPAC because they were into it, waiting for them to find some type of deal, and this is the one that they got. It's like opening a present on Christmas, and it's like it's a box of rocks.
Nice.
Well, no, it's the present you wanted, but you were told instead of being delivered by Santa, it was delivered by someone you hate. They got money. They made money. You made a ton of money because Donald Trump is now attached to your investment. Like, that was the point of the SPAC. Like, it was to make money. So
the other problem, though, and with the current climate of Facebook, it feels like Facebook is at the Capitol every other week now, testifying about customer data and privacy and all this other stuff. Like, if they try to follow some type of similar model where the user's attention is the commodity and the revenue is ad generation by selling ad space or promoted this or promoted that, I'm not convinced that the regulatory environment is going to be very conducive to that for very much longer. You can read about all the changes that are going on at Google because of this in the EU. You can read about all the stuff, the rumblings at the Capitol about how they want to, redefine user data and who owns that. And all of that stuff is going to be ripe for some very, very dramatic changes. And I don't think that you can just blindly follow that as a revenue generation model and expect it to work. I mean, maybe for a little bit, but as a long-term thing, I would be concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I don't see much of a product outside of just
No.
If you make something Donald Trump can throw to his users, which is a number that I don't know. Is that shrinking every day, or is that?
Apparently, it's trending in the wrong direction, but
Yeah,
I've yet to hear if it's hurt the MyPillow guy very much yet or not. So I don't. Apparently, he has his own news channel now too, but
Nice.
I've not watched it. I'm afraid of losing too many IQ points. But yes, I mean, I guess the reason that I bring this up, if you're gonna play the SPAC game, please be careful. Know who is in charge of the fund, know what type of business that they are looking for, know whether or not they're going to sign a deal after they've reviewed concrete revenue projections or whether or not it's something scribbled on the back of a napkin. Know those things before you do it, because if you're not careful, you can get burned. Yeah. Yes, in a great scenario, it can work out and you can become fabulously rich. I'm sure there are a lot of people who that has happened for. But that's not the average person's experience. So be careful. Pretty crazy, though. Should I make a SPAC? Could I, too, become an overnight millionaire just by randomly collecting a blank check from somebody because I have this super fabulous idea?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a super fabulous idea and a big enough celebrity endorser or influencer wants to jump on it, there are plenty of get-rich-quick scams that have worked out.
So really, I just need to become famous, and then the rest of it is easy? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I mean, you could be the guy that pitches the idea to the famous person. It's just at the end of this, when you don't deliver a product, someone's publicity will be trash. Won't be yours necessarily.
Yeah. But, there are reputations at stake. That is fair.
But, it's definitely happened before. Usually it happens with some small-time B-list celebrity, and the product itself, even if it does make the people who are doing the scamming money, it's not 1,000% return on investment or whatever, and it's not. It's through actually selling.
Yes.
It's through pre-orders or things like that. It's not through the market. I guess stock market is not usually the way these kind of.
No,
things.
I mean the stock market is not the economy.
Yeah, so that is kind of different, but this kind of whole idea where you have a cool sounding idea and a celebrity endorsement, you can definitely make short-term money with those two things.
Kind of blows my mind, but welcome to America, I guess. Well, guys, any closing thoughts? Should I ask, would you buy the Trump SPAC at $131?
Not at $131, certainly not.
No, yeah. Maybe the 9 that you said it was 9 that they launched at, right?
Yeah.
Possibly, but I didn't even hear about it, and I still have no idea. Does anyone know anything about it? No.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the only thing I know is that they're trying to do a social media platform and some type of media distribution thing.
Okay.
What that looks like is anybody's guess.
Yeah, I figured as solely a money-making investment, $9 is not that bad. It's like we were saying about like cryptos, you just throw some money and see.
It's a calculated gamble.
Right.
You make money or you lose $9, or you lose $9 times the number of times you gave them $9.
Right, yeah. So maybe it's worth maybe I could put 130 in if they launched at 9, or when they start launching at 9, but I would not put several times of 130 into it. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at $9, I probably would have said, I think this will make money. I don't know if I would have bought it because of what it is.
Yeah.
But I would have probably said, like, this is probably just the fact that that he's gonna say like use it, like probably will be worth more than $9.
Yeah. If it was any company, I would say maybe at that launch price, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of the appeal of SPACs, right? So most SPACs, before they sign a deal, they raise a round of funding, and they're publicly traded, usually between like $9 and $10.50. And then they have, I want to say it's 1 or 2 years to find a company to acquire with the amount of funding that they've raised, and then that company goes public, and then obviously the value changes wildly. But before the SPAC has a deal, the price of the SPAC does not change much on a daily basis. And so I think that's part of the appeal for some people is, hey, I can get in for $9, and it's one of those things where, to use our analogy of the Christmas presents, right? You don't know what you're getting in this case. You could be getting the most fabulous thing that is so far beyond your wildest dreams you can't even imagine it, or you could be getting a steaming pile of dog poop. And like the range of outcomes in between those two things is massive.
Yeah.
And you have no idea which one you're going to get.
That's true.
I mean, in a way, to me, as somebody, again, who works in marketing and is familiar with gambling and like works with gambling stuff, like it feels like gambling to me.
Yeah.
So
Seems like
you can tell me that it's not, but I'm not going to believe you. Like it feels very, very familiar to me. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean,
you might get 100x, you might get 0. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, you have very limited information. So
yeah,
it's like it's like playing a card game. There is some information, but,
well, and that's the thing. Like, if the SPAC fails to find a buyer, I'm pretty sure the money is redistributed to the people who bought into the SPAC. So in some ways, yes, you're losing money because the opportunity cost of giving them that money for 2 years it's tangible. There's a value associated with that. But
I mean, if they like, what if they spent the money? Like, what if they don't have the money to give it back? How does that work?
I mean, now you're getting into all the rules and regulations of it that I'm not overly familiar with, so I don't want to speak out of turn on how it does or does not work, but I know that there are some semblance of safeguards in place on a federal regulatory level to control the range of outcomes if they don't find a buyer. It's the scenario where you do find a buyer and you don't know what you're going to get. Obviously, that's how the SPAC is supposed to work. But there's also your 1,001 degrees of variation in the outcome.
Fair.
Because you don't know what you're going to get. You can get anything. I'm very curious to follow it, though. I mean, it's going to get an ass load of media attention, so...
Well, there you go. Maybe that's why it's worth $130.
There's so many other things that we should actually be talking about, and this is not one of them, but... That's the media for you. If the headline sells ad space, it will be published.
I mean, that's what people are investing in.
Yeah.
Trump's ability to generate headlines consistently.
Yep.
He is like Musk. Whatever he does, it generates a headline.
Yep.
I don't know if he necessarily get a positive response, but hey.
Then you have to get into the question of, is all publicity good publicity? And I would tell you no, but obviously for some people that is not the case. All right, guys. We've got a couple days left in the month. I don't want to jinx it. I want to say a 6% or 5.5% lead is insurmountable given the amount of time that we have left, but I've been wrong before. Are you guys happy with where you're at? You going to ride it out and battle for second and third, or are you gunning for the number one spot at all?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think crypto's pretty good at 60,000, so I don't think you can really sell it. I don't think it's going to drop.
That's the problem.
I think it's found its new floor for a while. I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of room to maneuver, to be honest, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty then.
Stationary for me too. Yeah.
Best of luck with these last couple days, and we'll see how the dust settles. Until next time, guys. Good luck.